Chancellor, President, Dean, faculty, ladies and gentlemen. I'm immensely honored by the Honorary Doctor of Laws that the university has conferred on me. There are many who have gone to this great institution who merit consideration for such an honor. I thank the Governing Council and all those who were involved in the process and decision to confer on me this singular honor. Let me first say a few words as the High Commissioner of Singapore to Canada, an appointment which I am deeply honored to have been given 3 years ago. As an alumnus of this university, and having lived in this country for several years, and with great affection for this country, as a student on a scholarship provided by the Canadian government, I have great interest to help in whatever way I can to deepen the relationship between our two countries. Many of you may know something about or have heard about Singapore. We are a small country, almost identical to the Greater Toronto Area in terms of our population and geographical size and GDP. The difference is we are a city-state, a country, whereas Toronto is a city in Canada. In the relatively short period since I left this university, we have developed from a poor, newly independent British colony with absolutely no resources to become a relatively rich, safe, and well-managed, multiracial first world economy where things work. I'm privileged to have belonged to the first generation of civil servants who participated in the development of post-independent Singapore. This afternoon, I will share with you my personal experience and observations gathered in my years in the public service in Singapore. I arrived at the University of Toronto 45 years ago this fall. Singapore had just become an independent country, its future uncertain. Many things have changed in the world since then. Just to give you a flavor, it took me almost 3 days to get here from Singapore. We flew in a Canadian Pacific Boeing 707, stopping overnight in Hong Kong and Tokyo, and stopping over in Honolulu. Today, I could have flown 18.5 hours nonstop from Singapore to Toronto in an Airbus 345, which the Singapore Airlines does to New York from Singapore every day. Today, the Canadian Pacific Airline does not exist anymore. The war in Vietnam was just starting when I came here. Vietnam is now one country. Similarly, Germany is now one country. China, which was born poor then, has last year overtaken Japan as the second largest economy in the world. In this period, several economic and financial crises and catastrophic natural disasters have occurred. Countries have gone bankrupt, and several big companies and household brand names, including Canadian ones, have disappeared. On the other hand, Timmy's, where I understand many of you get your coffee and donuts these days, was unknown when I was on campus. The first landing on the moon happened when I was in my 3rd year, and we watched it live on big black and white TV screens in front of the City Hall. Computers were in their infancy. We needed stacks of punch cards, if you know what they are, just to run a simple program which had to be done overnight. Google, Yahoo, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, they were all unimaginable. Today, the internet has transformed the way and speed at which we do things. So that was the world of changes and uncertainties that I went into and started my working life after graduation. The future of organizations, companies, and even countries are not guaranteed. The world that those of you who are graduating today and will be going into will similarly be full of changes and equally challenging. I do not know what these changes will be, but I do know is that there are also some things that do not change or change very slowly indeed. Things about people do not change. The first is human nature, both the good parts and the bad parts of it. Human aspirations also do not change very much. Cultural differences may affect our value systems and norms of behavior, but the fundamental aspirations of people are surprisingly very similar over time and cultures. We aspire for very similar things, whatever cultural background we belong to. I note, for instance, that the important milestones in our lives, like your graduation today, and that the next thing many of you will be doing is to get a good job, are still the same as when I graduated. The way your parents feel about your graduation today and their hopes and aspirations for you are much the same as those of the parents when I graduated. The importance of family and friends, and that the friends you have made here will be the friends that you will depend on and in the years to come, particularly in times of need. So in this ever-changing environment and evolving challenges, amidst the fabric of human constants, what observations can I offer to you as you start out in your career? My first observation is on the importance of recognizing early the human constants that I mentioned. This is important because in our day-to-day living, in the workplace, you cannot avoid human interactions and human relations. In the early years of your career, your circle of human interactions will initially be small, starting with one-to-one relationship with colleagues. But as you move up in your career, you will increasingly have to manage larger and larger groups of people. You will appreciate that at the end of the day, management is about motivating groups of people to help them align their own aspirations with those of the organizations and to give of their best in order to achieve more as a group than the sum of what each individual can achieve. I have found it useful to remind myself that everyone has weaknesses and strengths. Some people manifest their abilities very quickly. Others may take a longer time with the right opportunities. It is useful to try and develop early the ability to identify them in people. To be able to do this, it is important to learn to listen to people, to listen with an open mind. The listening skill is probably one that we give the least attention to. But people's aspirations are quite similar. It is important to recognize that these aspirations are what drive and motivates people. Without the ability to listen, you will not be able to judge or assess people fairly or understand their aspirations. My second observation relates to problem solving. The engineering undergraduate years had ingrained deeply in me the problem-solving instincts. In the engineering courses, I remember that almost everything must end with a solution. This is an important discipline because it is fruitless to go on talking about a problem unless solutions are proposed. But there is another very important aspect. This is to be able to define a problem clearly. This is important, but not so obvious, because problems involving people are often complex and can be interpreted very differently by different people. Unless a problem is clearly defined, unless we can clearly see what the real problem is, the solution may be irrelevant or ineffective. It is fruitless for a group of people to sit around trying to solve a problem when each person understands the problem differently. This leads me to my third observation on the importance of decision-making. After having clearly defined a problem, you need answers, solutions. It took me some time in my working life to learn that no solution is perfect, and therefore, no decision can be perfect. It is better to make an imperfect decision than not to make any decision, because having made a decision, refinements and corrections can always be made along the way, so that outcomes to that decision can be enhanced or made more effective. It is important to learn early. It is important to learn early not to be afraid to make a decision, because the ultimate error and biggest mistake may be in not making any decision than in making the wrong decision. And any evidence of indecisiveness will hinder one's career advancement. Could I have anticipated, when I spent all those years on this campus, how my career would develop after graduation? I could not have. Can I remember what I studied in my undergrad years? Very little of them. But in mastering well what I studied then, I have been equipped with the foundation and the instinctive ability. It is an instinctive ability to see problems in their important, relevant components and to find solutions, no matter how imperfect those solutions may be. What is important is that my years here and the environment, the courses and programs that I took, and the faculty and supervisors who gave them have provided me the strong foundation and confidence and the ability to be flexible, to cope with the challenges that came my way. I believe the discipline that is imposed on me and you, and that we impose on ourselves through the courses we studied and the programs we took, would have equipped us with a valuable life skill to learn and to relearn things in an ever-changing and uncertain environment. With new technologies, the world has grown increasingly smaller and global. Talents are increasingly more mobile globally. Many of you will end up working outside Canada. No matter what environment and culture you find yourself working in, remember that the human constants are much the same and must be managed and managed well in any area of work you go into. The years you spend in this institution will have equipped you with the ability to rise above the many challenges that will come your way as you journey through your working life. It did for me, just I'm very sure it has done for you. You can be sure of that this university has prepared you well, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, you can walk out of this convocation hall and face what come may with confidence. I wish you all the very best. Thank you.